All right, next story I want to talk about here is why women love emotionally unavailable men. This goes back kind of to what I was talking about earlier in this video, or if you're watching this on YouTube, the other videos about how you can't cry in front of a woman. You can't, even if it's for your dog or a loved family member, like women do not like that. Society in general doesn't like it, whether it's fair or not. Society just seems to shame it. Well, women love emotionally unavailable men because it gives a perception of strength. It gives a perception of mystery. It gives a perception of the chase. And the example I like to use a lot of times is when, like take my dog down here, right? Let me put it back on puppy cam here. I think I got a puppy camera here. Yeah, puppy cam. He's still zonked out. I've been doing this video. He just keeps staying zonked out. Let's see. I kind of lost my train of thought now. I was thinking about puppies. Let me just move on because until I get my train of thought back, that's what I get for jumping over and thinking about my boy down here. Let me move on. I'll get into why women love emotionally unavailable men. My point will come back up, but women love the chase. Oh, I remember what I was talking about. Okay. So you take my puppy down here. Now I remember my point. Let's say I set a ball in front of him. I mean, he may pick it up in his mouth and kind of chew on it a little bit, but then he may set it back down. And he's kind of like, okay. Now say he sees a ball up in a tree and he can't reach it. He'll look up at the ball in the tree for a little while and then he'll just move on. But what if you're playing catch with him? What if you're throwing that ball around and you're bouncing it off stuff and he's got to chase after it? Well, he's having the time of his life. Women are kind of the same way. If you say, baby, I'm yours, whatever you need, I'll love you forever, I'll be here for you. It's kind of like setting the ball in front of the dog. The dog knows it's got the ball, and the ball's just there. And the ball is not exciting. Now, what about the guys that say, you know what, you're unattractive, you're not my type, I never want to talk to you, it's never going to happen, just go away. The woman will say he's an a-hole. And he'll say a lot of disparaging things about him, but she'll go away and she'll forever forget about actually hooking up with him because he's a jerk and he obviously has no interest in her. But what about that fetch, that playing with the ball, that back and forth? Well, that's a guy that flirts with a woman, but then says, I'm not really into relationships. He'll sleep with her, but he says, nah, like I don't really want to be with you. But then when she gives him a booty call, he comes over, she goes over. It's that back and forth. So I'm going to read a little bit of an article. I agree with this one to some degree. 5 reasons why women love emotionally unavailable men. And I will say this, I've got a video I'm going to be doing only over on Locals, betterbachelor.locals.com, which is how to handle her shit tests. And it's a video review of this woman's channel, which is, her name is like Marnie the Wing. Marnie, your personal wing girl. The reason why I'm doing that video over on Locals only is because in YouTube, if I play her video here for an extended period of time, I get whacked with copyright and it demonetizes video and it screws up with my stuff. So I'm just going to do that part over on Locals. So if you want like a one-off story, I'll be doing that over there. And that ties in easily with like why women love emotionally unavailable men. But I wanted to respond to this because a lot of guys, and I talked about it in my call-in show, where I was saying that I think I had a really good deep conversation of like why do women love unemotional, unavailable men? So it says, discover the 5 reasons why women love emotionally unavailable men. Women often know the emotionally unavailable men signs, but when you're attracting oh my God, they keep repeating the same word. When you're attracting an emotionally unavailable guy, then also knowing why you attract that and why that draws you in, then this training will help. Knowing what causes emotionally unavailable men and the top emotionally unavailable men characteristics is helpful, but knowing how to handle emotionally unavailable men is even more important. I'm reading that on purpose that way because it shows you how stupid some of these writers are. They literally wrote emotionally unavailable men 17 times in this whole thing. Like, get a copy editor. Learn how to write. Knowing how to handle emotionally unavailable men is even more important. Some women even wonder why emotionally unavailable men keep coming back. This training will help understand much more of these dynamics and happening. Enjoy/emoji. Is this written by a 12-year-old? By Anita Boyd. Who's Anita Boyd? Why is she write like a 12-year-old? She's a fully grown woman. Magnetize your man with Anita and Brody Boyd. Get your free magazine, Your Man quiz and custom. Wow, what a trash site. Okay. Well, anyway, but I did read some of her points, and I think they're valid, even though she writes like a kindergartner. She says it triggers the tension dance. Here's reason number 5 why women love men that are unavailable. It triggers the tension dance. Now, hold on one second. What is that all about? What happens is you always have tension between two people. You have tension between a man and a woman. You want to have a certain amount of tension in order to keep it interesting, fascinating, charismatic, and maintain lots of variety. That provides that up and down, left and right, because we have this emotional experience of adventure and we have this exploration of width, an array of emotional responses. I actually think she's right, even though she writes her intro like a kindergartner. That's the tension, guys. That's what I'm talking about with the playing with the ball with a dog and chase, or cat with string, or whatever. It's the back and the forth. Is he in? Is he out? He's not calling me much, but then other times he shows me this. When we're together, we have a lot of fun, but then it seems like he doesn't respond that often. It's the what if. It's the butterfly. It's the tingles. It's the interest. It's that chase. And when a guy's all in and he says, baby, I love you, whatever you need, and I'm here for you, and she texts him and he texts straight back and he'll drop everything to be there for her, she's like, got him, bored. He's known. No more unknown. He's boring. And the thing is, this isn't something that you should have to fabricate as a man. It's this is a naturally a strong man's response to a relationship. Is I enjoy spending time with you. I like sleeping with you. I'm glad you're my girlfriend. I like to go out and have activities with you. You are important to me. Also, I'm not going to drop my world for you. I got a job. I got a pet. I got hobbies I love. I'm going to balance. You are part of my life. You are not my life. And so I think this should come naturally to a healthy man. And it doesn't mean that you're not emotionally invested at all. It just means that she's not your freaking world. And too many guys get into this, oh man, I'm so lucky to have her and she's everything to me and I'll drop everything. And women do not like that. And it's not only because you put her on a pedestal. You can't do that. She says what happens is we're actually creating this tension inside our body. When we're waiting for him to respond, then guess what happens? We're checking our emails, and that was totally true for me as well, whether that was online dating or waiting for a text message. I mean, I was really just holding out this tension. I would be talking to my girlfriends, and then he would text or email, and the release of that tension would occur. That feels so good to your system, like, yes. And we create a tension loop. This addiction that you start to get into, it feels so good. This relief, when you hold on to a lot of tension and pressure, and all of a sudden you get to let it go and relax, it feels good. That's why women love emotionally unavailable men. This is something also why, guys, social media is taking off with popularity, especially with women, because they post a photo, they post something for validation, and then they wait. And that tension builds. Are people going to like it? Are a lot of people going to respond? Is this going to get a lot of attention? And then those loves come in and those comments come in and that validation comes in and they go, I feel wanted and desired and loved. And then another time they post another photo and it doesn't get as much and they're a little bit let down and they're disappointed it didn't work out as well. Then they post another photo and this one might be a little sexy. They get so much more attention. That's why the nature of online and a lot of these accounts are going towards spicy photos and OnlyFans, because they get a lot more attention. A lot more attention. Matter of fact, if you go back to I talked about this in another video where we were talking about Jana Hawking. Like if you look on this video right here of her drinking wine, it's 50 comments. You look on this photo here, it's 39 comments. Here's another photo, 23 comments. Like not a ton of interaction. What about her in lingerie? 229 comments. A lot more comments on there. They learn over time It trains them. Well, women are kind of the same way when it comes to a relationship and social media. If you just barrage her with attention, she'll be like, ugh, I need space. You're choking me. Get a life, dude. And then when you get a life that's like without her, she's like, oh, God, he won't pay attention to me. But when there's that back and forth, they get into it, that tension loop. Number 2, it gives them freedom to feel. Reason number 4, this is what happens when you're not a good writer. This up here, it says, trigger the tension dance, number 1. And then down here under number 2, it gives them the freedom to feel. This is her first sentence. Reason number 4 is it gives them the freedom to feel. Get a copy editor. Hold on one second. What are you talking about, Anita? What happens is we actually have this dance going on between closeness and space. We want intimacy and closeness, but we also want space. We want the freedom to move, to make our own decisions, but to be our individual self. If we have a man who is emotionally available, sometimes he already wants to create so much intimacy and closeness and connection with you that you need to be the one that creates the space. When this happens, it feels like you can't really let yourself feel that much because you have to create the space so you can make sure you're still free as well. If he comes a little bit more into your space emotionally, that can feel unsafe for some. If you had an emotionally unavailable father, for example, or mother for that matter, it doesn't really feel safe it doesn't really feel that safe to you if somebody comes so close, so fast emotionally. Well, that makes sense. How many emotionally unavailable mothers and fathers are there out there today? There's tons of them. We talk about it all the time. This is like one of the critical things that's messing up kids is bad families, no father being involved. And what do they have? They have a mom that's more interested in partying it up and hooking up than being a good mom. So you make these women that are not comfortable with like closeness. And so when you're close as a partner, they freak out. They don't know how to handle it, and it makes them uncomfortable. So when you're like socially distant, it's a safer bet. I got to show you my dog right here real quick. He's dreaming. He's playing in the park right now, chasing butterflies and having a good old time. I got to take him out for a walk later. He's having a good old time. He's down here snoring away and just chasing butterflies. Just like the ladies, he's chasing butterflies in a park. So yes, if you come across as like, oh, I'm here for you and whatever you need, and she's not used to that because her mother or father weren't like that, she's going to be like, oh, too much. I need space. So by you being emotionally unavailable or distanced, well, that makes women kind of feel like, hey, you're like everybody else that's in my life. It's more comfortable for them. She says if somebody is emotionally unavailable, now you can be as emotionally expressive as you want to. Isn't that amazing? You can write him love letters and love songs. You can daydream about him. You can tell him how you feel about him because he makes sure that he creates all that space. So now you are the one who can actually bring in the warmth and emotion. A big point here, why women love emotionally unavailable men. If you like to learn more, blah, blah, blah. All right, so what she's saying basically is like if you're too much, guys, it can chase the women away. But if you give enough space, then she can come in and get closer to you when she's ready for it. And that makes them feel safe. I do think that is a valid point. But I also, again, feel that just men should have enough going on in their lives that they shouldn't be all up in a girl's business. They should be doing their own things. They should be happy living their own lives. Number 3, they think they can turn the man around. Reason number 3 is we have this illusion that we can turn men around. It's somehow this prize and this accomplishment, but here's the thing. It's actually supposed to heal your childhood trauma. So if your dad was not emotionally available, and you as a child, of course, took it very personally, you can feel like, oh, it's because I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not patient enough. Then what you're going to do, because you now have an open loop, you spend the rest of your life working on closing that loop. How do you close that loop, you ask? Well, attract another emotionally unavailable person into your life. This mirrors your parents that were emotionally unavailable, and you try to turn them around because this whole time, that little girl wanted to turn the parents around. If I jump through enough hoops, if I turn myself into enough of a pretzel, then my parents will change. So the hope is that this cycle finally completes when she turns the emotionally unavailable men around. Of course, this never happens, but that's extremely intriguing and attractive. This is why women love emotionally unavailable. This is interesting. So basically, I mean, it does have to do with daddy issues, let's be honest. That if you have daddy issues where daddy wasn't there for women and he wasn't emotionally available for women, he wasn't able to show a good example of a good positive role model of men. And I'm not saying she's right here, but I'm trying to sum up what she's saying, I think. She's saying that if you find that same guy as a lover or a boyfriend or a husband or whatever, if you work on him enough, you can make him come around and appreciate you and be emotionally there for you, and therefore maybe healing some of the trauma that dad left behind. I mean, we do joke about women that date older men and women that endlessly look for Mr. Perfect and string guy after guy after guy together. A lot of them, we say, we joke around and say, well, she's got daddy issues. It's not always the case that she's got daddy issues, but what it can mean is that she has emotional needs that have not been met by men. And when men give it to her in too much, in too much, that it's too much for her to handle. And when guys don't bring enough of it, she thinks she can train him to have the amount of emotion for her that she wants, which is just the right amount. I mean, I think that's what she's trying to say here. And to some degree, it does make sense. There's a lot of women that chase men that do not want anything to do with them and will never want anything to do with them. And those women chase them and want to get them as boyfriends and want to get them to lock down. And the guys say no. And she pines after him and she tries and she sleeps with him and she does all these nice things for him. And she says, just be with me. And the guy's like, no. But that's the guy she chases after. And again, I think it's because that guy is showing very high value. He's not chasing after her. He's being strong and independent. And women naturally want that. The problem is she's chasing, or women chase after the guy that will never give it to them. Where in reality, she should be chasing after a guy that has the ability to give it to her. He just doesn't give it to her too much because he's got his own life. I know that's kind of circular, but I see where she's coming from. She says it makes them securely insecure. She must have mixed up number 2 and number 4, because she says for number 4, she says reason number 2. So she must have gotten her paragraphs or whatever. She says reason number 4 is it makes you securely insecure. This is not a play on words. Picture this. When you feel insecure, how much certainty do you have around that feeling of being insecure? A lot. So it's interesting that you actually have that level of security that you experience in your insecurity and what it feels like. I'm going to boil this down because this was kind of confusing when I first read it. So let's imagine a scenario where I was dating and I was meeting men, and I knew before they were not responding exactly how it would feel when they didn't respond. And I knew the disappointment that was coming on, what that felt like in my body. I even knew what it smelled like. I could feel it, and then when it happened, I got disappointed. I knew exactly what that next emotion was going to be, and that I was going to reach out to my friends, and the feelings were right, and so on and so forth. I created security and insecurity. Okay, so what it sounds like she's saying is, I got used to dating guys that were not available, and I knew they weren't available. So I knew the game they were going to play, and I knew what it was going to make me feel like, and I'm used to that. And because I'm used to that, I was kind of in my comfort zone. Because I knew the game. I was comforted in the game. I knew they were going to pull away. I knew they were going to be emotionally unavailable. So I was in my comfort place. That's kind of what she's saying here. Interestingly, if you go back to the video where I talked about Jana Hawking just a couple of videos or earlier in this video, depending on where you're watching it, that's what Jana was doing. She's like, I don't know how to date. I don't know how to be normal. Like, I'm so used to hooking up and so used to feeling this way that I'm out of my comfort zone when I try to have a, quote, normal relationship. That's what she's saying, is like, I don't know how to have a normal relationship, but I'm in my comfort zone when it's with an unemotionally unavailable guy. She continues on. You know what? We would rather experience an emotion that we already know how to handle than a completely new emotion and an array of possibilities that we have no clue and no certainty how to deal with and whether or not that's, quote, safe. Now, I say safe here, but the unconscious is saying whether it's safe. Safe is something I can deal with, but I've never experienced joy. If I've never experienced reliability, if I've never experienced true trust and true emotionally or unconditional love, then that actually doesn't feel safe to my unconscious. And that makes sense. What she's saying here is, look, I don't know how to handle healthy relationships, but I'm used to unhealthy relationships. So I go with what I know. I don't know how to handle someone that really loves me and someone that's really there for me and someone that's really healthy and someone that's very loving and a good person. I don't know how to handle that because I've never had it before. It's all new and it freaks me out. And I think a lot of young people are having this happen to them today, where they say, I don't know how to handle that. I do know how to handle this emotionally distanced, casual hookup. Let's sleep or be friends with benefits with each other for a little while. And then when it doesn't work out, even though I'm emotionally hurt, I'm okay with it because this has happened so many times. I know what the deal is. Like, people would rather stay in that than have an actually healthy relationship because it's so foreign to them. I think that's what she's saying, and I actually do believe that. I think that's what's wrong with a lot of relationships today and why a lot of young men who say, look, I just want to have a good person in my life and I want to love them and I want them to love me and I want to be happy and we can trust each other and be comfortable around each other. A lot of guys want that. The problem is a lot of women can't handle it. A lot of guys can't handle it either. But I mean, a lot of young people or younger people or people that haven't had a good upbringing, they can't handle that because they've never had that before. My parents raised me in a very loving home. When they were angry, it wasn't a lot of yelling. It wasn't like harmful or like passive aggressive. They'd just say, I remember my mom would say, that hurt my feelings. And I'd say, why? Because when you do this, it makes me feel like that. And it makes me think this. And that hurts my feelings. And I would say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do it. She says, okay, please, if you can try not do it again. I'm like, okay, sorry, Mom. That's okay. Done. The end. That's how we handled something. She caught me once sneaking outside of the house. I was like 16, 17 years old. And she said my curfew was like 10 p.m. But I wanted to go out with my friend. And there was a party that I wanted to go to. And she said, no, not until you're 18. I snuck out of the house. Now, this is back before, parents would call the police at the drop of a hat and before cell phones and pagers and all that. So she sat up worried because she found out I wasn't home. She actually heard me go out the front door. She told me later. And I came sneaking in at like 12:30, and she was sitting there. And she's like, where have you been? And she was angry. And I said, I just went out with my friend. I almost said his name. I almost went out with my friend. I just wanted to go to party. But look, I'm an adult. I can make these decisions. It's not fair that you do this. And I'm trying to, do my thing. And my friends, and they can do it, and I can't. And we had this big... And she said, the reason why I'm so upset is because when you just disappear like that, it scares me, right? And plus, it makes me worry. And then later you lied to me about doing it. And I don't like that because it makes me lose trust in you and it scares me. And I said, okay, but when you don't let me go out with all my friends it makes me feel like I have no freedoms and you don't trust me as an adult and you don't trust my decisions. And she said, okay, that's fair too. And we came to a compromise. That's how that's how I was raised with my mother and my father and my grandparents. So when I get in a relationship and something goes wrong, I go, okay, let's talk about this. Here's how it made me feel. And that's not how it's happening nowadays. Like, people go on rants and people shut down and people don't talk. Girls will say, it's fine. Can I go out with my friends, honey? Yeah, it's fine. It's whatever. And then she's mad at you for 3 days and you don't know why because she didn't tell you. The games. Well, that's what she's talking about. People don't know how to communicate and trust each other. And when you're raised in a good family, this is kind of like foreign to you. But when you're raised in a kind of a messed up environment, the ones that are healthy, the ones that say, hey, I'm a mature adult, let's have a good relationship, the ones that are kind of not raised well or have issues are like, I can't handle this, and they bounce out. And then the ones that are relatively well off or know how to handle relationships are like, I don't know what's going on. Like, why does this keep happening to me? I'm a good person. Why can't I just find another good person? It's because a lot of those good people, they had problems from families and relationships. And so they struggle. She says, reason number 5, it causes attraction anxiety. She said, she says, reason number 1, again, her paragraphs are out of order. Reason number 5, why women love emotionally unavailable men is because it causes attraction anxiety. That's right. You get those fireworks, those feelings down your spine, that excitement. You have butterflies in your stomach. You have this attraction, but it's actually anxiety that you mistake for attraction. So it feels really intense because, of course, there's a high level of aggravation in the system when we feel anxiety. There was actually a research study that was done a few years ago, and here's how it went. They had men walk over to a very dangerous bridge that was hanging over a canyon. Then at the end, there was a woman waiting for him. Obviously, this was an attractive woman. They were seeing how anxious the man was before and after he walked over the bridge. They found that men who felt more anxiety and more fear ended up rating the woman with a higher number of attractiveness than the men who didn't feel as anxious. Interesting, right? Now, I wouldn't call it causation. Let's call it a correlation, but enough of a significance that it's worth talking about here. There was actually another study done that when there was danger and high levels of excitement in a date, like a first or a second date, women found that they wanted to go out with a man more, and they found him more attractive. It is a thing, which is why I've had dates where I've taken a woman on a motorcycle ride, and they weren't necessarily used to motorcycles, and they were scared, but it was also very exhilarating. They were very excited to go out with me again. And a lot of times it was, oh my gosh, I don't know if I'm ready to do motorcycle riding again, but it was so much fun. What else are we going to do? That high level. Well, when a woman is cheating on her husband or a husband on his wife, that level of danger and naughtiness and anxiety and worry and getting caught, that all amps into the attraction. That's why people do cheat a lot. That's why that level of excitement for he's a married man and there's danger there, or I'm married and he's single. That's why, again, and people are addicted to this butterflies and the tingles and everything else. And they think when it's missing that there's something wrong with our relationships. In reality, the real world is much more mundane. They're just so used to chasing the butterflies that it becomes an addiction and they go for it. So I have to agree with her on this. So, and then she writes a conclusion. But you guys get the deal here, is that women and men today are either coming from unhealthy homes. They don't know how to emotionally bond because they don't know what a healthy emotional bond with someone is. Or they get used to the anxiety and the danger and the mystery and the excitement of cheating or having multiple partners or having the casual flings or partying. And they get that confused with what actually love and good relationships are. So I think that has a lot to do with it. Again, I'm not agreeing with all her points, but she does, from a woman's point of view and a fifth grade writing ability. My writing is no better, trust me. That's why I don't write articles, because you'd read mine and you'd be like, dude, yours is just as bad. That's why I don't write. But my point is, though, that she does bring up a lot of it is emotional instability. And there's multiple forms of it. So for you guys out there that are like, hey, how do I be that guy that attracts women? Well, with a lot of women being like this, a good way to be a legitimate good man and still get attention from women, even if it's just casually. I'm not saying you'd want to date any women that are looking for this type of guy, but this is why you can be a man that's doing your own thing and chasing your own dreams and having your own hobbies. And you can still have fun. You can still have a great time on a date, and you can still or even go on multiple dates with a woman. And you can be great fun, and you can say, hey, she's awesome. Like, I want to keep dating her. What do I need to do? All you need to do is just chase your dreams and chase your money and follow your heart and have your hobbies and lead your own life and be that guy. And what you're doing is you're giving her space. You're being a little bit emotionally separated, so she has room to work through emotions without feeling smothered. You're giving her the opportunity that if she wants to be left alone and she doesn't text you for 3 days, you don't care. You don't give a shit. You're doing your own thing. Who cares? I got my hobbies. I got other things. Which is why oftentimes when I am dating somebody, if they don't text me for a couple days, I'm cool. If they don't text me for a week, I think in my head like, well, I guess they ghosted me. Anyway, moving on. It doesn't mean I don't care. It means I've got an active life full of lots of fun activities. And so I don't care too much. It doesn't mean, but the woman will say, if you don't reach out to her for a couple of days, she'll say, why don't you care? I do care. It's just, I got things to do. Figured you didn't want to talk. but it gives her the room. It gives her more control of the emotional state of it because you're far away and she can draw you in as needed. And you can be drawn in as needed, not too much because you got to do your own thing, but you're also not smothering her. And that's important. And that's the last video I'm going to do is going to be talking about this a little bit. It's going to be this one, how to handle her crap tests. And it's about her creating distance and how you create that distance. I'm actually going to do that in a separate video on locals because I'm going a little bit long, but it's creating that distance that's important. And when you create or when you deal with the distance, fine, that's good. That gives her the ability to handle it. When you're trying to be too up much in her grill, it makes her very uncomfortable.